as our next guest, a lady who's going to talk to us about the Banshee. I checked before we came on the air to find out were there any people in our audience who had actually ever heard a Banshee, and to my amazement, several of them said they did. Now, you've all heard phrases like whinging like a banshee and the wind was howling like a banshee, and you've all heard about the image of the woman sitting on the rock combing her long hair and all of that sort of thing. And I have always believed that it's a load of old rubbish myself. I don't believe in any of these things, but then you know that if you've seen The Late Show and heard the radio programme down through the years. Anyway, our next guest is an expert on these things. She's a lecturer in the Folklore department at UCD, and her recently published book was based on a thesis about the very subject of the Banshee. The Irish Death Messenger, it's known as. Would you welcome, please, Dr. Patricia Lysaght. There she is, Patricia Lysaght. Now, I want to tell you in passing that Patricia is also a barrister, and she also has 2 All-Ireland medals because she's a Clare woman, but she was captain of the Dublin Camogie team, believe it or not, and won 2 All-Ireland medals. And she was first in Ireland in her law exams, and she studied the Irish language and Irish folklore, and then that's how she became interested in it. Real brainy woman she is, real brainy woman. The Banshee, the Irish supernatural death messenger. What is it, Patricia? What is it?
Well, the Banshee is an omen of death, and she's supposed to cry. It's supposed to be a woman who's supposed to cry for certain families in Ireland.
What families?
Well, they're very special families. It's not any old family she cries for, sort of thing, you know. There are families who are supposed to be Irish. They're the Anglo-Norman families. The Burns, for example, she's supposed to cry for the Burns, you know.
Is she?
She is, mind you.
We're on the list.
You are.
and what other families does she cry for?
Well, she cries for the Mahans, the Murphys, the Nagels, the Nugents, the Kellys, you name it, sort of thing.
So the whole thing is, if you hear the Banshee crying, it's an omen of death?
Yes, in certain families.
And who hears her?
Well, the members of the family themselves can hear her, but more often it's the neighbours who hear her. It's something that's heard in the community. It's the people sort of who know that somebody is dying in a certain house in the community, and they're listening out for the Banshee, of course, because they know that this particular family is supposed to be followed by the Banshee. And it's mostly the neighbours, in fact, who hear the Banshee.
And what sort of a sound from your research does she make?
Well, it's a very lonesome sound. As one Cork woman said, I never heard anything so lonesome before. It's a long, lonesome cry. It's a benign sort of sound, you know. It's a sound of somebody who's interested in the family, who's sort of sorry that somebody in the family is going to die. One of the family sort of thing, you know.
And is she only heard in Ireland, Patricia?
Well, there is a type of death messenger as well in Scotland now, for example, but of course you'd expect it in Gaelic Scotland. And she's the woman who washes at streams and rivers, washes clothes. And you find this to a certain extent in Ireland as well, particularly in Galway, actually. It's a very rich tradition in Galway. And the tradition differs in different parts of Ireland. You know, it's not all the same all over Ireland, you know, with the Banshee. And she's not even called the Banshee all over Ireland either. For example, if you live down in Wexford now, you'd know that she was called the Bow down in Wexford.
The Bow.
And in Carlow and parts of Wicklow, yeah. If you lived in Waterford, you'd talk about the Bibe. If you lived in Kilkenny, you'd probably talk about the Bohinta. In mid-Tipperary and parts of Limerick, you talk about the Bean Chaointe, which describes what she does. She cries, basically. And in North Mayo as well, she's called the Bean Chaointe. So we're not all the same.
That's the keening thing.
That's the keening
yes,
woman.
That would be it. Now, is she ever seen?
Well, she is. People say that have seen her, you know, and mind you, in Cork and Kerry, they don't see her at all down there, from what I can make out from my research, you know, so they're different down in Cork and Kerry. Well, we always knew they were anyhow, but certainly in the Banshee tradition, they're very different. And because of the fact that she's not supposed to be seen down there are very few descriptions of what she looks like. But in the rest of Ireland, yes, she can be seen. And she's supposed to be a small woman. That's the general description. There are variations. She's a small woman with long hair, generally white or grey hair, an old woman, a small woman, dressed in an outdoor garment, which is generally a cloak. And you don't see her feet, sort of thing, and she's sort of crying there away to herself, you know. And in the eastern part of Ireland, East Munster and Leinster in particular, she's combing her hair. And she's supposed to have a comb when she's combing her hair. And this is a very, very rich tradition. It's very different, actually.
Oddly enough, let me interrupt you. Getting out of the car yesterday in a car park, beside another car. Nothing funny about this, it's very serious. I saw on the ground a comb. Now, the odd thing is that I would never dream of picking up that comb. And that must be from my childhood, because I remembered, and I knew you were coming on tonight, and I remembered, why don't I pick that comb up? What is this thing about not picking up a comb ever? Is that part of...
Oh, it is indeed, you know, and there's a legend called the comb legend. This is something that's grown out of the man tradition in areas where she combs her hair. And people I've talked to in Dublin would say, you know, we were always told as children, don't pick up a comb, that's the Banshee's comb.
Right.
Particularly if it had a broken tooth in it.
Yes.
Because she was supposed to have very long hair, she was always combing it, so she broke the teeth in the comb, you see.
Yes.
And it was a way to stop children actually picking up combs they might find on the street, because people have said it to me as late as the other evening, you know, we were always told that, don't pick up a comb.
That's right.
And it applied all over Dublin, you know.
So there was a kind of a practical side to it.
Very practical side to it, in that sense, and in other senses as well, you know, because...
And do people now, do you find from your work, do people still believe in the Banshee as much as they did?
Well, they still believe in it. I don't think as much as they did, because I think many traditions are dying out for very many reasons, you know. Yeah. But certainly there is belief in the Banshee, and it's very hard to quantify, it's very hard to measure it, because you have actually to be in a death situation, you see, before you can actually get people to admit that they believe in it very much, you know.
Well, Kathleen, or what's your name, daughter? Eleanor, did you say you saw the Banshee?
No, I didn't say I saw it. My mother did.
Where?
She swore it on Kickham Road.
In Drimna?
Yeah, no, Inchicore.
In Inchicore.
And she did. She did. And it was the house that she was supposed to be sitting on, you know, on the lead, the window lead, was O'Neill. You know, I always understood that she followed the O's, not the Macs.
She does, yeah. As I say, by O and Mac.
Yeah, you know, O'Neill, O'Dowd, or you
and
know.
What did your mother say she looked like?
She said she was a small little woman in black with long white hair, and she was combing, and she was moaning and groaning, or whatever it is.
And was your mother sober at the time?
Well, I hope she was. But that I couldn't tell you now.
But
I couldn't tell you.
Inchicore is not...
If it had to be me now, well...
There would have been a doubt. Right,
there would have been a doubt, but the mammy now, that was different, you know.
So I mean, Inchicore is not... It's renowned for many things as well, I know, but not for Banshees.
Oh, I wouldn't like to name them off, yes. It is known for many things, yes.
Who's the other lady said she saw a Banshee? That lady up further up. Yeah. Where did you see the Banshee?
No, I didn't see her, Gay. I heard her.
Oh,
I heard her when I was 17.
Where?
And she was crying at the top of the driveway to the house where we lived.
And where was that?
In Malahide.
That's extraordinary. We were still in the urban area, yeah?
Yeah, and it was the most terrifying sound I ever heard. I never heard anything like it before, and I never hoped to hear anything like it again. It was just terrible. I heard it and I felt it.
It was a cat.
No, it wasn't an animal. No animal could make the sound it made. It was absolutely terrifying.
Is that the phrase you hear again and again?
It is. No animal or human could keep crying for such a length of time as this particular cry went on for.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could sort of compare it to something, but, you know, in the tradition people always say it wasn't that because it made the hair stand on my head, I got shivery. There was something unnatural about it.
Does anybody believe in this thing? I find it very hard. Line 3. Hello, line 3. Good evening. Hello, line 3.
Hello.
Hello, line 3. Yes.
Hello, Gay.
Hi.
My mother was actually a Byrne, and she was called Byrne, and I'm a Kelly. Are you there?
I am indeed.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my mother told us that when she was a girl, she saw the Banshee in Kilmainham. It described her, a little old grey-haired woman combing her hair. Now, my mother died last January, 12 months, and a few days before she died, I was dreaming that I was in her house looking out the window, and I saw the Banshee in the garden combing her hair.
And
so I'd like to know,
You've no doubt about this.
Is there any significance in the dream and the reality?
Well, certainly. I mean, it fits the tradition with regard to the small woman sitting down and combing her hair. Mind you, I haven't come across the fact that somebody dreamt about it before, you know.
Yeah.
But certainly, it's very much in keeping with the tradition, particularly in the east of Ireland.
Yes.
You know?
And you never approach her at night. Do you steer clear of her?
You do. You steer clear.
And what is the basis of that now?
Well, it's best you let her alone, and she let you alone. As the saying goes, an hour's luck never followed anyone that interfered with the Banshee.
Yes, but the not picking up the comb had a hygienic connotation to it. What would that connotation
Well, the
have?
connotation is that, generally speaking, in tradition, in belief systems, that the other world is left alone. And if you leave the other world alone, it will leave you alone. You don't interfere with supernatural beings as such.
Be the hokey, I see. If you're watching this programme on your own somewhere in a dark house, we hope you're enjoying yourself very much indeed.